really thought about what languages the ancestors of Black Americans spoke before they were brought to the Americans? I mean, it's a huge question, and it gets right to the heart of identity, of history. And as we're about to find out, the answer is way more complex and, honestly, way more fascinating than you probably think. So let's just put the question out there, nice and simple. If you had to pick one main language that the ancestors of Black Americans spoke before English, what would it be? You'd think there'd be a straightforward answer, right? But the reality, well, it's this incredibly rich and complicated tapestry. And here it is, the answer, straight up. There wasn't just one. There was no single dominant language. And that one simple fact completely changes how we have to look at this entire story. It tells us it wasn't one group of people from one place, but many, many peoples from a whole lot of different places. So here's how we're gonna unpack that. First, we're gonna bust that myth of a single language. Then, we'll take a trip to the incredibly diverse African origins. After that, we'll look at how brand new languages were actually created in the Americas. And finally, we'll zero in on the three main linguistic sources that really shaped this whole thing. Okay, first things first. Let's tackle this idea of a single language. It's a common myth, and it's a myth because of one simple thing: geography. To even get your head around the linguistic history here, you have to appreciate the massive scale of the regions we're talking about. People were captured from a huge area of West and Central Africa. I mean, a region that spans thousands of miles and was home to hundreds of different ethnic groups. And yeah, each one had its own unique language. To really get this, we need to look at the map. The ancestors of Black Americans were primarily taken from two major regions. And when you start digging into them, you find this incredible, almost mind-boggling mosaic of languages. And this isn't just some boring list of names. This is the very foundation for everything that came next. Okay, just look at the sheer variety from West Africa alone. We're talking about a stretch from the Senegambia region all the way down to Nigeria. You've got major languages like Akan, which you'd find in modern-day Ghana, and then Igbo and Yoruba from what's now Nigeria. And let's be clear, these weren't just slightly different dialects. These were completely distinct languages. And then you have Central Africa, mostly the Congo-Angola region. The languages here, like Kikongo and Kimbundu, they belong to what's called the Bantu family. Now, this is so key because these languages left a deep, deep mark. They influenced the rhythm, the grammar, and the speech patterns that would later develop in African American communities. And here is a critical fact that so often gets missed. While a lot of the conversation tends to focus on West Africa, the historical data is clear. The Congo-Angola region was actually the largest single source of enslaved people brought directly into the U.S. Understanding this piece of the puzzle is absolutely crucial. So, what do you think happens when you force people who speak dozens of totally different languages together under the worst conditions imaginable? Well, they find a way to talk to each other. This next part of the story is about the creation of entirely new languages, and it's just this powerful testament to human resilience and our basic need to connect. On the ships and in the coastal trading ports, these simplified contact languages started to pop up. And what's really interesting is that before English became the main language of the trade in North America, a lot of these were actually pidgins based on Portuguese, because that's what the early traders were using along the Angolan and Congolese coasts. Now, over time, those pidgins can grow into something way more complex. They can become a Creole language. See, a pidgin is kind of a basic tool for communication between different groups. But a Creole, that's a full, stable, natural language that kids can learn as their very first language. It's a complete system born out of this intense contact. And that's exactly what happened in America. The most famous example is Gullah Geechee, a Creole language that people still speak today in the coastal Southeast. It's an amazing linguistic bridge to the past. It keeps grammatical structures from African languages, but uses a vocabulary that's mostly based on English. Take a word like goober for peanut. That comes directly from the Kimbundu word nguba. And beyond Gullah, you had tons of other localized plantation creoles that developed all over. All right, so let's pull all these threads together. We've seen the incredible diversity of the African origins, and we've walked through the story of how new languages were literally born in America. Now that we have all that context, we can go back to that original question and give a much sharper, much more meaningful answer. So, okay, even though we know there wasn't just one language, can we actually identify the heaviest hitters? The most significant contributors to the linguistic heritage of Black Americans? Well, based on the historical data of where people came from, the answer is a definite yes. And here they are. The three biggest linguistic sources were Igbo from Nigeria, Akan from Ghana, and the Bantu languages of Kikongo and Kimbundu from that Congo-Angola region. If you put those three together, they represent the largest ancestral linguistic streams. And I just want to hit this point one more time, because it is so important. The data shows that the Congo-Angola region was a major, direct pipeline of people brought to the U.S. This Central African connection is absolutely vital to the story, even if popular history tends to put most of its focus on the West African coast. So, in the end, the answer was never one language. It was a mosaic. It's a story of profound loss, for sure, but it's also a story of creation and of just incredible linguistic survival. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In the way we talk today, in music and culture, how many echoes of Igbo, Akan, and Kikongo can you still hear?